Welcome to Prepare For Takeoff. I'm the creator and host, Terry L. Cyrus. We're the podcast dedicated to amplifying Black excellence. Every week, we sit down with a proven professional or rising entrepreneur. This week, we're sitting down with CEO of CH Consulting, Crystal Hadnott. Crystal, what's going on?
Hello, thanks for having me.
We've been trying to schedule this for some time. We've been watching you do your thing, and you wear a multitude of different hats, whether you're running marathons, whether you're in academia, whether you're an entrepreneur. She's somebody that truly embodies Black excellence, and we have to have her on the show. So thanks for giving us some of your time. Where are you from originally?
Where I'm from originally is Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas, H-Town 713, correct?
I am the original area code 713, yes.
What was that like growing up in Houston?
Houston was pretty cool. I mean, the dope part about Houston, which is still exists today, is that Houston is the most diverse city in the United States of America. So that is the plus. And it's also landmass wise, the largest city in the United States of America from a land perspective. So it's very vast. So the cool part is that you have this vast city. So it's a major metropolitan city, but it still has very small town country flair on top of just like full of diversity. Depending on if my mom or dad are talking, it's either a gumbo pot or a paella. It's like a mixture of just like beautiful seasons, and I love it.
Also, you have beautiful weather.
You know, if you're not from these parts, I wouldn't suggest coming July, August, September, maybe even October, because you may not be used to, the 3-digit heat with 100% humidity. Definitely, year round, the joke in Houston is if you don't like the weather, wait 24 hours because it changes.
I never heard that.
But you can guarantee you're going to get some heat somewhere in there.
Born and raised in Houston. Did you leave for college or did you stay local?
I went to the University of Houston, so I stayed local. But in between, I was like, but the crazy part is the day I graduated from high school, the very next morning I got up and went on a plane and backpacked around Europe for 3 months. And came back, went to school at the University of Houston, and after graduating, moved to Africa. So I tell people in these in-between moments of going to school in Houston, I got away. And majority of my career, I have worked outside of the city of Houston.
What prompted that backpack adventure? And then also what prompted you to go to the motherland?
A few things. So I grew up in the hood.
Okay. What ward did you grow up in?
I grew up in Third Ward. For those that are listening, I grew up in Third Ward, which is the hood. But it's a unique hood because it's full of the haves and the have-nots. Third Ward was the first community where Black people could live in the city of Houston. So it's a mixture of very high-end family incomes, but also very government assistance. And then there's somewhere in between in that neighborhood. But the reality of growing up in a neighborhood with a mixed income is that I always saw myself doing something different, because although I grew up what people would consider poverty, I always saw something different in my neighborhood. I saw the people that did have, and I wanted more. So I literally hustled, had a job while I was in high school, and sent myself to Europe.
I always say that those early years of adversity, if you will, whether you're from a challenging background or circumstances, whether it's socioeconomical driven or whatever, or if it's environmental as it pertains to what you're exposed to at an early age, those are the things they can either break you or they can shape you. And luckily for you, it shaped you into the woman that you are today. And it probably shaped you to have a very independent mindset. Even though your circumstances in reality may have been one thing, you didn't limit how you seen yourself. And more importantly, where you seen yourself going, and you saw yourself going not just out of state, but out of the country. So I'm certain that really broadened your exposure, to say the least.
Absolutely. So the reality I tell people of growing up poor, I never had another option. So I had to learn how to create my own resources. And so that literally built the entrepreneurial spirit in me. It taught me how to make something out of nothing, and it built the muscles that I use today. I tell people, what's so cool about the work that I do today is it's actually the one thing that I had to learn to do on my own, because I didn't have resources. I didn't have finances, but now people pay me to show how they can get finances, which I think is the coolest 360 moment ever is that this girl who grew up with no money, now her job is to teach people how to get money.
What did you study in undergrad?
So one thing you're going to learn about me is that I am like a nut when it comes to education. Like I'm like obsessed with the process of learning. So I end up studying a lot. So just bear with me. I always tell people. So I had a double major in political science and psychology, and I had a minor in African studies.
That's a lot of studying.
Well, I've always just really enjoyed the learning process. And one of the reasons why I went into psychology, because I've been always obsessed with the process of thought.
Okay.
In the mind and how things are developed just through you utilizing your mind. And so that was part of my obsession with the thought process.
When you went to undergrad, did you go straight through? Because I know in some circles you're known as Dr. Hadnott. So
Yes, I went straight through. I went straight through.
No stops, huh?
I was in school for a long, long time. So yes, I was at the University of Houston. I got a double major, political science, psychology, and African studies. Then I went on to Texas Southern University, which is also in Houston, right across the street from the University of Houston, which is the beloved HBCU. And I ended up getting my master's of public administration with a study in public policy. And then I stayed at TSU for my PhD in administration of justice. Again, really learning how to write on public policy, but really understanding now more so the economics behind public policy.
You attended an HBCU, so too did I, for your master's and your PhD work. Attending an HBCU, what impact did it have on your development professionally?
I tell people the interesting part is that my experience with HBCU was not the same that people I think that get it when they go to an HBCU in their undergrad. When I went to a HBCU, I was just, honestly, I was heartbroken. I was heartbroken because I came from a PWI where they had resources. They had different processes and procedures that was lacking at an HBCU. It like changed the trajectory of where I went into my career actually because of it. I didn't understand why HBCUs weren't getting the same funding, the same resources, the same access, the same technology that existed at my PWI. And just to see how far behind they were in resources and technology compared to the others. I went in just like blazing, like trying to get money now for HBCU. So I went in more so where most people was like, oh, I felt like home, it felt like family, and it felt like community. I became a straight up advocate for HBCU when I started my time at HBCUs.
I think a lot of people, they don't understand and realize, and it's something that doesn't get talked about enough, whether you're at Howard, whether my beloved HBCU was West Virginia State University and others, the list goes down the line. They're so under-resourced, sad, but unfortunately true. And then when you go to WIs, they have sweet mates and things of this nature. They can pick and choose what they want to eat for lunch.
We had full-fledged restaurants on our campuses.
Yeah, full-fledged restaurants.
And t-shirts at a cafeteria. I was like, what? You know, like we had a mini city on our campus.
Right.
And we're talking about literally, and I'm not over exaggerating, it's literally across the street from each other. So the schools literally, there's one street that separates the two schools. They're literally sitting across the street from each other. And so it was just very disturbing to see that this is two schools sitting in the same neighborhood across from each other, but one has maybe 10 years advance on technology and resources than the other school. And that was just unacceptable for me.
One of the things that I'm sure wasn't sad is when you joined your beloved sorority. So talk us through what led to that and the impact it's had on your professional and personal development.
I pledged grad chapter.
Okay.
So I didn't pledge while I was in school. I pledged grad chapter. And my mother is an AKA. And when she passed, I felt like I needed to do something to honor her. And that's when I decided to pledge and become legacy. because one, I was her only daughter. And I was like, I didn't do nothing this lady wanted me to do. Like, I didn't go to an HBCU like she did. Like, she went to Grambling undergrad, was Miss Grambling. She was an AK. And I was like, I just screwed it up. Like, I need to do something to honor her legacy. And so for me crossing as an alpha, it it was more so me paying homage to my mother's legacy and really showing how much gratitude I had for a group of sisters who celebrated my mom in life and death. And
Right.
so it was me giving back to the organization that supported my mother as well as myself.
One of the things that prompted me to join the Make Yourself Fraternity Incorporated many years ago, I was just the opposite. I pledged my second semester freshman year. My brother is a Q, and he crossed 3 years prior to me going online. My sister, she had pledged Delta Sigma Theta 2 years prior to him. Joining the fraternity. So I was able to have that firsthand experience of what I seen them go through as far as the camaraderie, from my sisterhood, from my brotherhood, and then having grown up in the shadows of the HBCU, homecoming, and all of the things that come with HBCU culture. It was second nature to us because we were part of the neighborhood. So many of the faculty members, and in fact, the president's house was in my neighborhood before they built his mansion on campus. So we grew up with the president's kids and things of that nature. So we were very involved with all of what came with HBCU culture, step shows, you name it. So when we went there, it wasn't a matter of somebody tried to familiarize us with what this consists of. We already knew. I knew in high school what I wanted to play. I knew.
Well, I was so focused because when I got to undergrad, my whole focus was becoming a tennis player.
Okay.
I was an athlete, and my coach, I grew up playing tennis in my neighborhood, and my coach was Zena Garrison, which at the time was the gold medalist, Black female out on the circuit. And she lived in my neighborhood and had a tennis program in the neighborhood. And so I wanted to become a tennis player on a professional circuit or go to the Olympics. So my focus was not on anything else. Like, I was like, okay, I got to keep my grades up, but my goal is to become a professional tennis player. I couldn't pledge. I was like, I can't get involved in all this other stuff. I'm trying to be a tennis player.
Right.
That was my focus. Tennis
is something that I took up later on in life, but I'm sure you could beat me on the court. So now, did you play at University? Not anymore. Well, you probably still could beat me. Did you play in college?
I started playing at the age of 5, and I played all the way through college. And so, yeah, it was everything for me. And I tell people it's been 25 plus years since I played. Even like I think I've played maybe 2 or 3 times for fun in 25 years.
Man, so was it a matter of burnout having played for so long?
Absolutely. It was definitely by then. I did make it to my first thought was 97 Atlanta Olympics and then Sydney 2000. Didn't make any of one of those Olympic teams. And so I was like, I'm done. It's a wrap. I'm out. I didn't want to play anymore. I had lost the passion. I lost the love because I turned something that was a passion into a profession, and I should never done that. And any professional athlete will be able to explain that to you. Like, and it really changed how I approach actually my professional life now and my quote unquote fun athletic days now. Like, I approach my athleticism very differently now, and I approach my professional life different because it was the lessons I learned through burnout with tennis.
Once you finished your academic studies, got your PhD at an early age, what did you find yourself doing once you got that PhD behind your name?
Well, the whole time I was working, I tell you, I grew up poor. I worked all through undergrad and I worked through grad school. I started my career while in school. And when I I tell you, my career kind of made a shift when I got to Texas Southern for my grad school. And actually, I was working for Thurgood Marshall College Fund, which is the college fund that fund all of the public HBCUs across the nation
Mm.
and support them with both scholarship and capacity building dollars for the university. And I was responsible for a program. First came in doing program and doing, I was a liaison amongst at that time 108 campuses, and then really got into the funding side of things. And so I got engulfed with just like how funding worked. That was a part of my dissertation, was really understanding who got money, why they got money, why policies got money behind them, and just understanding the economics behind policy. And just really, one, I was concerned why our universities wasn't getting money and what policies were controlling that and who was controlling that and how can I make a difference. And so that really got me into the funding side of things. And I went into funding from a lobbyist perspective. I did actual fundraising. I worked in philanthropy. And so throughout my career, I focused on fundraising. But one thing I was finding out in that field of fund development, fundraising, and philanthropy was that all the people who were doing the work were also burnt out.
Okay.
And I was like, I exchanged one burnout profession for another. Like everybody was burnt out. And so what birthed out of that is the consulting firm that I have now, where I literally take endurance sports principles and skills that I learned to sustain peak high level performance. But how do you properly fuel so you can sustain it long term? And so now, whether it's the individual or the organization, I really help people develop like these strategies, these plans, facilitate workshops and helping them understand how do you properly fuel yourself personally, and then how do you properly fuel your mission, your initiative, your organization properly so you can sustain a level of performance and continue to grow and build without trading it for burnout.
Thinking about starting your own business? Make it real with Shopify, the all-in-one platform trusted by millions to sell online and in person. Whether it's merch, art, or digital goods, Shopify gives you the tools to build, grow, and succeed. And here's the best part. When you sign up using the affiliate link in our show notes, you're supporting Prepare For Takeoff and starting your business off right. Click the link and start your free trial today. In business, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in corporate America, it's always a marathon. It's never a sprint.
Yeah.
And to be able to apply those marathon principles, it's spot on. Now, speaking of, applying principles, I'm sure that came from your own practices, actually running marathons. So
Yes.
what led to that?
So what led to me running marathons is, I tell you, like part of my life, I also did a lot of international travel. And during the time I was in Africa, I had a mentor that was a marathon runner. And he would force us to wake up every morning when we were in Africa. And I was not a runner. Okay. In tennis, actually running was like what you did for punishment. You run laps, you run a mile. Like I hated running. It was like punishment. He would make us wake up every morning and run to the shore and do a meditation and come back. And that stuck with me because it set the tone for my day. And I didn't realize that until I came back. I was working for an organization, won't say no names, and I had a slip and fall accident where I became literally paralyzed from hip to foot on one side. And I'll fast forward, just going through therapy, was able to regain movement, go to therapy. And they were like, well, you're going to just have to keep this cane. And this is your new normal, is that you're going to use this cane to help balance you. And I was in my late 20s at this time. And I was like, one, a cane is not sexy. I was like, so I told the doctor, I was like, I'm gonna run a marathon. And he laughed at me. And so with conviction, 9 months later, I ran my first marathon. And that changed everything for me, because what I learned in that process of training, what I learned about myself in that process of moving from walking with a cane to actually crossing the finish line of a marathon. And 200 almost marathons later, there's a lot of lessons learned in running races that I've picked up. And so from those lessons that I've learned through making mistakes, like we all do, like you get into something, you said you play tennis, like you learn right off the bat, okay, this was not a good hit, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
the lessons I've learned in this now almost 20 years of running marathons is the same skill sets that I've developed now for my business.
So let's just unpack that part of 200 marathons. You didn't say
Yeah,
20.
almost. Yeah, almost. No,
We're going to
yeah.
give you the 200 because I've
Don't
done
try to
one.
do that. That's a lot of races a year. I've done 2 so far this year. So what that's up.
Despite that many marathons, you haven't reached burnout?
So I tell people there's a way that you can stay at high level performance without burning out. But you have to understand a few things. One is mindset first and foremost. Second is strategy and using that strategy and creating systems to support the strategies. You can operate at these high level performances, and operating at high level performances doesn't mean you operate. I tell people burn the candle in both ends, like the old people say. You know, but there's a way for you to still do things that look like on the surface hard and difficult with the proper mindset, with the proper strategies, with the proper systems to still be able to do it and do it long term.
You're like the LeBron James of this.
That's what some people say.
You're on my I never list. I've never met someone who's.
Well, I have to introduce you to my friend Susie because she holds the Guinness World Book of Records. Okay.
How many has he ran?
I don't know. Susie is like, I think it's like close to 400. Yeah,
That's
like 350. I don't
insane.
know, 400. Somewhere between 350 and 400. So she's beat me. She's hold the world record.
Well, see, I don't know Susie. I know you. So therefore, you hold the record in my book.
Yeah, it's still a lot. It's
That's
still a lot.
a
It's more
lot.
than average.
That's way more than average. That's an exceptional amount of marathons. I mean, it surprised me. You seen the look on my face. I thought she was going to say 20, and I'd have been just as surprised. She's like, yeah, about 200. And she kept going. I'm like, oh, no, we got to rewind that back.
No,
200?
no, yeah, it's been a lot. I tell people just the Houston Marathon alone, I've ran it every year since I've started running.
Man.
That's just Houston.
And I'm sure there's a lot of things that you can draw from that when you step into a room and you have instant credibility, not only with the PhD behind your name, but then to say, you can't tell me what you can't do because I was told that I wasn't going to be able to walk or my new normal was going to be with a cane. And then I'm like, yo, miss me with that. That's not sexy. And 9 months later, I'm running a marathon. I'm not just learning how to walk without a cane. I'm running competitively. And I'm not going to just run that to prove a point and like, hey, doc, take that. I'm going to continue to run, and I'm going to run at the tune of 200 marathons. So at that point, you have everyone's attention. Everybody's ready to run through whatever wall you direct them to. Is that kind of like what you get when you go through?
It's. I mean, I was just in Atlanta last week doing a workshop, and that was, the first thing that was mentioned is that what I'm going to teach you is not just science back. It's just not research back, but it's lived experience. So that's the difference. I tell people that's my secret sauce. And it's not lived experience from, oh, that's what I did back then. This is what I continue to do and continue to make changes and continue to even change in my works that I've developed frameworks and theories and philosophies behind it. Those continue to change as I continue to learn even more through these lived experiences.
Mm-hmm. And I'm certain that throughout that period of time, 200A is a lot of marathons. And I'm sure life continues to show up for all of us. So were there any hurdles or things that you had to navigate to continue on that quest?
Absolutely. And it was like, I was like, God, is this a test? But I tell people, when I reached like well over 100 marathons, and this year would actually be 10 years. 10 years ago, the summer of 2016, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And they also is the data I use for burnout, because I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, which is one, they say that they don't understand the cause, but just based on my own personal research, this particular autoimmune disease exists in a lot of females who have basically been high achieving females who have overperformed in your life. And so the body gets full of inflammation and hormonally you get out of control. And one of the first things they tell you, because one of the things that happens is your metabolism is higher than the average person. One of the things that they told me first and foremost is that you got to stop running marathons. You have heart palpitations because you can have a cardiac event. Like you can't run anymore. Like you have to stop. And I was like, well, I've heard that before,
Right, not happening.
Like, no, and I was really determined not to stop. But I was like, now instead of using this as a defeat, and this is how I approach races that I have difficulties in, instead of using it as a defeat, what's the data? Like, what is the data that I'm getting from this? What's the information that I can utilize to re-strategize the way I do it? I tell people you don't have to stop, but you definitely have to probably pivot or change your pace, right? And so I use that autoimmune diagnosis as data to actually change up my strategy of how I train for races and how I run. And so I do, and that's the same approach that I tell organizations. I was like, okay, what you experienced was your diagnosis of an autoimmune disease. Like now, how can we now use that as data to do things a little bit different where you don't have to stop the work that you're doing, but just change the strategy of how you get to where you're trying to go.
You're the epitome of no excuses.
No excuses. There's no excuses.
No excuses.
So I'm writing a book right now. It's like my book of cheat codes. The basis of the books is like the two bigger cheat codes is one, there's no such thing as a finish line. And two, there's no such thing as failure.
That's deep. One of my guests shared this with me, Crystal, that success is inevitable. You have to just keep going.
Yeah.
A lot of times people,
That's biblical.
Yeah, right. They stop before they get to their destination. If God puts something on your spirit, you have to listen to that. Even with me in the podcast, we've done over 100 episodes, but there was a time in which I resisted the idea of having a podcast. I was the person that would put somebody on camera, whether it was established talent or it was talent that I was looking to develop, including my daughter. When my daughter was 7 years old, I had my daughter in front of the camera interviewing celebrities and whatnot, because I said, hey, that's not really my thing. I'm more of a producer. I'm more of a behind the scenes person. But I said, I keep getting this calling, and it's coming from multiple people that I need to do this podcast. And
the book of Isaiah.
Okay. All right.
That's all I'm going to say about that. It talks about like, if you have a true purpose, you will never see the finish line, which I say there's no finish line. You'll never see the finish line to that purpose, but you are basically the soil and you're planting seeds. And so the growth of that, you won't probably ever see, but the seeds that you're planting is your daughter.
Right.
So it's going that purpose, if your purpose does not continue and grow through someone else outside of you, that's not real purpose, because God never gives us a purpose that does not affect another person's life to continue.
Now, I didn't know you was a preacher, so I knew all your other titles.
Well, I'm from the South, and I grew up like, look, my mom was I'll tell people two things that's not on my resume is that my mom is Creole, Louisiana, Bible carrying woman from the South. And my dad is a very spicy Dominican. So I tell people you're going to get a little spice, but you actually going to get the word at the same time.
You're going to get it all wrapped up into one. That's a good recipe. And it's worked for you. It continues to work for you personally and professionally. What are some of the other things you're involved in? I know you have CH Consulting, you're running marathons. What are some of the things that we haven't had the opportunity to touch on?
Well, my baby. So my first business is a wellness business. So the cool part about the work I do as a consulting, it marries all the things in my life that led up to this consulting firm, which is my professional life and fundraising, philanthropy, but also my wellness, which is my other business that I have, and also my athleticism as an endurance athlete. So that's where I get the whole strategy and the whole foundation of my consulting business. But my very first business is Synergy Wellness, which Synergy will be 15 years old this year, which I'm super excited. But when I had my accident, I told you I'm a sucker for knowledge. So when the doctors were telling me what I couldn't do, I was like, look, all they did was went to school longer than me in a different subject.
Right.
And maybe it was the very boldness of who you are in your 20s and you think you know everything. But I was like, I'm just going to read a bunch of books. And that's what I did. I literally read book after book after book because I was determined to heal myself. And in that process, some things happened. I ended up becoming a certified nutritionist. I ended up becoming a certified Pilates instructor. And I use all the modalities that help me heal and created Synergy Wellness, which was my first business. Because what I didn't want is someone else to go through what I went through and not have the resources that I didn't have, that I had to go find for myself. So I took all of those resources and all the things that I learned and created a business, which is now Synergy Wellness. And we had a storefront all the way up into COVID where I closed it. So it's a completely online business where I do wellness consultations and connect people with different healing modalities to help them live a well life. So yeah, that's my baby.
That's awesome. You're clearly walking to your purpose on purpose, something that we always encourage people to do, because I feel as though that's tied to your passion, really, because your purpose, as you mentioned, it should impact other people. But I always ask people, what are you passionate about? And then if you're passionate about something, because I'm passionate about helping people. And I've helped people throughout my career journey in a multitude of different ways, but I'd say that's the common denominator. I'm always willing and looking to help other people. And then that's going to directly tie me to my purpose. So I always encourage people, no matter how, you know, you know, out in left field, your, passion may sound, that if that's for you, then that's what God has for you. And what makes it in left field is because it's not for everybody. It's only for you.
Yeah. It don't sound crazy to everybody else.
Exactly. I'm sure.
Not their assignment.
Right. We, in order to be something that's considered extraordinary, it can't be ordinary. And, your journey is anything but ordinary. You're clearly an extraordinary individual. You've had a multitude of different things that you had to navigate from childhood to some of the health challenges you even described. And then now you not just have one successful business, you have two successful businesses, and you have your PhD and got that at a very early age, traveled, zigzagged across the world, and your third ward's very own.
Exactly.
This episode of Prepare for Takeoff is brought to you in part by Riverside, the platform that I trust to record studio quality podcasts right from my laptop. With Riverside, I get crystal clear audio and 4K video. Plus, it's super easy to use. Whether you're a beginner or a pro, Riverside helps your podcast sound amazing. Try it out for yourself. Click the affiliate link in our show notes and start recording like a pro with Riverside. As we close out, Crystal, I want to give you the opportunity to leave our viewers and listeners with 3 things that you feel will help them prepare for takeoff.
Ooh, 3 things to prepare for takeoff. I really, when I was thinking about your whole takeoff concept, because to know me is to know 2 things. When I do speeches, workshops, whatever, I'm gonna do 1 or 2 things. I'm a queen of metaphors, or I'm gonna utilize somebody's rap song.
Okay.
To get the testimony out.
Right. So, Crystal,
And break down the
too.
But I'm gonna go with the metaphors for you because I don't think your audience is ready for me in my rap game. Because I am a walking jukebox, but we'll talk.
Okay.
One of the things that, this is actually tied to a song. I would tell people, drop the weight. The first thing I would say is drop the weight. Takeoff requires you to have weight reduction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So drop the resentment, drop the overcommitment, because that's what leads to burnout. Drop the need to prove. Because I tell people, heavy planes don't lift. Right before they take off, they always have a weight requirement of how much luggage, how much people can be on an actual plane before they can actually take off and live. So the one thing I would say, drop the weight, and the very good lyricist, Erykah Badu put it, bag lady. She talks about that, like dropping the bags. Like you gonna miss your bus. You can't hurry up because you got too much stuff. You can't take off, right? So, that is like the biggest thing. And I'll tell people, stop forcing misalignment as another. A part of another reason why a lot of people are burnt out is that they're forcing misalignment, whether they're doing things that cause them to portray who they are, who they know they are internally, because it's a job and it pays the bills, or they're around environments that causes them to shrink to fit in or make other people feel comfortable, or even do things that cost you your health or abandon your health. So I tell people, stop forcing that misalignment. And the third thing is, one thing about ultra marathoning or running marathons anyway, there's a term called DNF, did not finish.
Mm.
And in the world of marathon running, that's looked at as a negative. But one thing I would say is that DNF doesn't mean a loss. Choose it as your way to use it as data. Like, what can you learn from that moment that you had to stop? Like, what caused you to stop? That is a time for reassessment. And in my book, I have a whole nother definition of what DNF means, and you would have to get my book to get that. I would say really just don't never look at defeat as a loss or failure, but try to find the lessons learned, and always do this visual in workshops. Is lesson learned, that's a double L, right? But you can look at it as like it's a double L, like a loss. But if you put two L's together, what do you get?
Get a win.
You get a win, a W.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Well, look, I know you got bars because you share some of them with them through your metaphors. And I'm the same way. I always tap into metaphors and try to, get people to understand, whatever my point is, I try to make it as digestible as possible. So sometimes you can do that with metaphors, or you can tie it to a popular song. You are a walking wealth of knowledge. And I know you're working on a book. Are there any kind of published works that you've already put out there that people can
do? I have.
There you go.
Mine was just the start. It's actually a book that talks about my life and the lessons learned. So it's a great read. For one, who people are just nosy and want to know who I am, but also I don't just talk about, this is the story of my life, but I talk about the lessons that can be applicable to everybody's life. So this book, and then told you I'm all about my spiritual side. So Rise and Run is a devotional. And it's a devotional, and where there's 9 fruits of the spirits, but I take 9 characteristics that I learned as a runner and break them down to 9 different devotionals for you to live your life and rise and.
That's awesome. Now, where can they pick up those 2 books at?
My website, crystalhadnott.com.
Okay. All right. So you have 2 books and you're working on a third, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
correct?
Working on the third. Yes. The
Man,
cheat code.
Yeah, cheat code. Crystal, I'm sure that our viewers and listeners are going to want to tap in and continue to follow you on your journey, your marathons, etc. So how can they follow you on social media, your website, whatever contact information?
All of it is Crystal Hadnott, my name.
Okay.
Make it easy. Instagram, Crystal Hadnott, LinkedIn, Crystal Hadnott, Facebook, Crystal Hadnott. My website is crystalhadnott.com. So everything is Crystal Hadnott.
And if an organization wants to have you come and speak and lead one of these workshops, it would just be a matter of reaching out to you on your website?
Absolutely.
This has been an honor to meet somebody to have not just run a marathon or 2, but you've run actually a number that I can't even conceive. I can't even see myself running 1. You ran almost 200. We're going to give you the 200. So that's
almost 200, not quite there. I tell you, I stopped counting. I should count. And it would be easy if I just count my medals. But when I first started running marathons, I would give them away to little girls as a confident booster when I was doing workshops. So I tell you, I don't even have all the medals from the races that I won. So one day I'm going to figure out the actual count, but it's somewhere in between that. It's over 150, but not quite 200.
I have a cheat code. We'll say approximately. Approximately 200, which is more than anybody that I know. I don't even know anyone that's ran 25, let alone 200.
Don't worry. I don't know many people who has ran close to me outside of my friend Susie.
You and Susie, especially the people that look like us, the people that come from neighborhoods that are comprised of people who look like us. That's definitely a rarity. You always
Susie doesn't look like us.
Right, yeah, Susie doesn't. I didn't want to say it. I said, I don't think Susie is from our neighborhood, but nonetheless, we'll claim her. Considering the fact that she's inspired you and all the things that you continue to do, and you're going to continue to inspire little girls like mine and others to dare to dream as big as they possibly can see themselves being and going, whether it's on a marathon, to space, creating cures for cancer, whatever. I think at the end of the day, when you talk about people like Barack and Michelle Obama, the kids of today's generation, they have examples that we didn't have. When people
Yeah.
say you can be anything you want to be, in the back of your mind, it's like, well, I can't be the president. But now kids that are of today's generation, they truly can wrap their head around the idea of I can be the leader of the free world if I study and I do this and I do that. Like my dad would always say, hey, get your lessons, get your lessons. If you get your lessons, he would always say, get your lessons, read the Bible, and eat right. And get your sleep. Those will be his things he would touch on. And it's worked for him. He's 91 years old and he's still sharp as a razor. And he's clearly given me a blueprint to follow. My mom, she's 83. I'm blessed to have them with me. And I'm blessed to be able to be a vessel. As you mentioned, they can live through me and I can be a vessel to touch others. And then hopefully my daughter, she'll be a vessel to do the same. Crystal, I want to thank you for spending so much time with us. Much continued success. Also, I wanted to thank our viewers and listeners, whether you're watching us on YouTube or you're watching us on Spotify or you're listening on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Audible, iHeart, or Pandora. As you know, every week we're going to continue to bring you proven professionals or rising entrepreneurs. And all of these conversations, just like this one, will help you prepare for takeoff. Crystal, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.